All right. Save the chat. So the chat's already quite busy and robust with our contact information and folks telling us where they're logging in from. If you haven't already let us know where you're logging in from, go ahead and add that in the chat. You do have the option to save the chat once we're done today. So for those of you on a laptop or a tablet, if you go to the bottom of the chat and you click on the three buttons, it should give you the ability to save a copy of the chat so that you can have that to refer to later on. And you should be able to save that to your device. Copy of the slides. If you want to take a moment to scan this, we'll show it again at the end of today's seminar, but you can download a link to the copy of today's slides. And then again, in that follow-up email that you'll receive from Maggie, she will also send a link to today's slideshow. All right. And now I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to Jade to walk us through today's presentation. Welcome, Jade.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. So this first slide, we're going to see the common errors stop sign throughout the presentation. So we're going to want to keep an eye on these top 5 items that we have found that they're the most common errors throughout completing the application, being bonds, personnel and their Arizona Corporation Commission listing, completed background checks, valid and legible IDs, and testing. So as we go through the presentation, just make sure you take your time to look for that stop sign and common errors. We'll go over each of these items individually so that you can take some time to review them. Okay, the applying for a license checklist. In the meeting invite, you should have received a checklist that looks like this. If you did not receive a copy, it can also be found on our website under our applying for a license page. This checklist is a great tool to use during the application process to guide you step by step through the application. There are 2 different checklists. The difference between the 2 checklists is if you're applying as an LLC or corporation, or if you're applying as a sole proprietorship. If you choose to apply as an LLC or corporation, there is an extra step of registering your company through the Arizona Corporation Commission. So definitely keep an eye on that. The checklist will help you get the application completed in its entirety, since we developed it to encourage you to do the things that take the most time first before getting your application submitted. Again, if you didn't receive a copy of the checklist, we have it available on our website and it'll be in the copy of the slides that you receive. Okay, so first we want to understand who the applicant is. So just our checklists are divided up. You have the option to apply as a sole proprietorship, partnership, or a corporation or LLC. As a sole proprietorship, there is not an actual business name. It is your name that is shown on your government issued ID. You use your name on contracts, advertisements. It would show on your ROC license as well. As a corporation or LLC, you would create a company name that is registered through the Arizona Corporation Commission. In order to apply as an LLC or corp, it has to be registered here with the Arizona Corp Commission. You do have the option to apply a DBA to your license. A DBA is a doing business as. This name should show on your application, your bond, and then we don't require that it's registered with the Secretary of State, but it's highly recommended because it's going to reserve that name to you. Okay, license classifications. So in order to go through the application process, you will need to understand what scope of work you're going to apply for. Knowing your classification will help you understand what type of bond, testing, fees are required for your application. We have a lot of different classifications that are categorized into different scopes. Engineering is anything that's industrial, public right-of-ways, warehouses, and such. We have residential contracting, which is homes, condos, ground up work for new homes, custom homes, things like that. Specialty licenses are where we get into more specific scopes. So if you're wanting to do just plumbing, just electrical, just painting, those are specialized into one single category. We have dual licenses that cover both, so that would cover residential and commercial. That applies to specialty licenses and general contracting licenses. This is all listed on our website. So you can go to our website and view each classification to try to decide what you want to apply for. If you're unsure what to apply for, we have a scope determination request form that can be submitted. We ask that when you submit that request, you're as detailed as possible on work that's being performed, if it's commercial, residential, both, and the monetary value of work. Some of the classifications can be limited in monetary value, so it's really important. Once you complete that, we would review it and let you know the best possible scope to apply for based on what you provide to us. Okay, the qualifying party. The qualifying party is the person who has the experience on supervisory, education, military, and they're also the person that's going to be completing the exams for the application. The requirements for the qualifying party are very specific. We do need their full name as it's listed on their ID, their date of birth, social security number, a valid government issued ID, driver's license, passport, someone of those. We'll need their contact information, so address, email, phone number that can be used to get in contact with them. The qualifying party is required to complete a background check. Background checks are valid for 90 days, so keep that in mind. It is a common error item. They will complete both the statutes and rules and the trade exam if it's needed. Here in this slide, we've highlighted a few of the common errors when it comes to looking at the qualifying party as an individual on the application. So that's that ID, background check, and exams. The qualifying party is the person who has the minimum years of experience to qualify for the license. Hands-on, supervisory, as mentioned. They will attest to the experience on the application, and they'll need to provide a reference person that we can verify the experience with. Okay, waivers. So we're going to start with in-state waivers. We'll go with out-of-state waivers here in a little bit. If the qualifying party has been on a license before, they have the capability to waive certain exams. The qualifying party can waive the statutes and rules exam if that qualifying party was on an active Arizona license within the last 5 years. Again, has to have been active here in Arizona in the last 5 years to waive the statutes and rules exam. When looking at the trade exam, the qualifying party can waive the trade exam if they have been on an active Arizona license with the same classification in the last 5 years. The classification needs to be the same that they were listed on as is being applied for now. The statutes and rules exam is broader because it's the same for every license classification. So if you're applying for something different, but you've been on an active Arizona license, it could still be waived. When submitting through the portal will do the check and waive it if you meet the requirements. This is why we highly encourage everybody to submit their application through the portal. It'll do a lot of the back end research and work for you, so it's less items for you to upload at the end and less information to enter yourself. So definitely get signed up for the portal if you haven't done so already. Okay. Waivers for out-of-state applicants. So this is a big one. We get lots of applicants from out of state that are attempting to waive the trade exam. We'll start by saying that we cannot pre-approve out-of-state waivers. They do need to be submitted with an application for review. With an out-of-state waiver, we cannot waive the statutes and rules exam unless they had been on an Arizona license in the last 5 years. The Arizona Statutes and Rules exam is very specific to Arizona. Each state has their own statutes and rules that they follow. So ours is going to be specifically to our state. So it can't be waived with an out-of-state license. When it comes to waiving the trade exam, the qualifying party needs to have been named on an active license in the last 5 years and meet these specific requirements. The scope of work allowed in the other state needs to be comparable to the license that's being applied for here. So if you have an electrical license in another state and you're wanting to apply for an electrical license here, you can possibly waive by providing that out-of-state license information. The qualifying party that's listed on your application here needs to have been listed in the same capacity in the other state. So that's the person who oversees the work, had the required years of experience, and completed the exam in the other state. We must be able to verify that the qualifying party took a trade exam to obtain the license in the other state. We'll also verify that there are no unresolved complaints in the other state. Anything that would stop you from getting licensed in the other state could affect us being able to waive that license here. It needs to be verifiable through a state board or agency. So a great example is California. They have everything available online. We're able to verify who the qualifying party is, the scope of work, if it's active, anything that's going on with the license. So definitely keep those items in mind if you're wanting to use an out-of-state waiver. When you submit the application online, it'll give you the option to fill in out-of-state license information if you're wanting to waive that. So another good reason to submit through the portal. If you're mailing in or walking in your application, we do have an out-of-state waiver form that can be completed and submitted with the paper application. If we get to a point where we're not able to verify the out-of-state license information and it's determined that we're unable to waive the exam, we would contact you and give you the option to complete our trade exam. Okay, so these are the exams. This is a common error item, so let's keep an eye on this one. We have two different exams, the Arizona Statutes and Rules exam and the trade exam. These links can be found on our website under the Applying for a License checklist. You'll be directed to two different websites, so one for statutes and one for the trade. For the statutes and rules, it is a computer-based training course with an exam at the end. You'll go through learning modules, videos, mini quizzes throughout the course. It is a self-paced course. If you get started today, you can pause and pick up where you left off another day. The cost of this course is $54. All the materials needed for this course are included in that cost. The statutes and rules book is available to be downloaded on our website and in that statutes and rules course. The course itself does go through all the information that's needed. So you can take your time, review all the information, and then take that test at the end. You must register for the statutes and rules course using our link in order to be registered for the proper link. So just keep that in mind. You can go through our website and the links that were sent through the invitation. Now the trade exam. Okay, so knowing your license classification for the trade is very important. The trade exam is specific to the license classification that you're applying for. You have two options for this exam. You can either take it online or in person. This exam is proctored, so keep in mind that if you're wanting to do this from home, online, you will need a camera and they do monitor you throughout the exam. You're allowed to have certain books with you during the exam and they are noted in the PSI bulletin for specific information. For the trade exam is $66 and solar exams are an additional $40. So if you have a license that requires the solar exam, that would be an additional cost. There are study materials available for purchase from PSI. If you have questions on that, you can contact PSI with any questions about any specific study materials, scheduling the exam, knowing what's needed to test online, their rules and regulations. Once you pass your trade exam, the score itself is good for 2 years. So if that goes past that 2 years and you haven't applied for a license, you would need to retest for that. Okay, so if you're taking a trade exam, there is information for the trade exams available online. On our website, we have a section for passing exams. It gives you a link to the PSI candidate bulletin. This is very helpful in determining, how many questions are on the exam, the passing score that's required, time allowed, general topics, and that reference material. So the books that you are allowed to take in and use during the exam will be on this candidate bulletin as well. It's a good idea and tool to have because the specific books used will be there and they can help you prepare and study for the exam. Alrighty, so this is another common errors section. Who will need to be included on your application? If you're applying as an LLC, owner or corporation, owners of 25% or more, members, managers, officers that are listed with the Arizona Corporation Commission must be listed on the application. So anybody that's listed there would need to be listed on the application. Anybody who is on the application does need to provide the items listed here, which would be their name, date of birth, their ID, contact information, so email, address, phone number, title and ownership if applicable, their social security number, and they all need to complete a background check, and it needs to have been completed within the last 90 days. So those common errors are ID and background checks for everybody listed on the application and corporation commission. All right, background checks. So all persons who are listed on the application must complete a background check. We only use one vendor. It's called AccuSource HR. When you complete the background check with them, it is good for 90 days. On the portal, it'll ask you for your background check receipt number, and you can't move forward until you have that receipt number. So making sure you get that completed before doing your application is really helpful. Any questions regarding the background check, you'll want to contact AccuSource. Their information is included on the slide, and specific link to be able to complete the background check is on the slide, and it's on our website, the applying for a license page, and it's included in the checklist. Okay, workers' comp. If you have employees, you need workers' comp. Per statute, there are only two exemptions to a workers' comp policy. That's a single member LLC where you are the owner and the qualifying party and there are no employees. The other exemption option is going to be a two-member 50-50 ownership where one of those two people are the qualifying party and they have no employees. There are only these two options for exemption. So if you're 41, 59, that still requires workers' comp. Anything regarding workers' compensation is governed by the Industrial Commission of Arizona. They oversee that statute pertaining to the workers' comp policy. So make sure you're keeping an eye on this when submitting your application. Okay, tiered entities. So a tiered entity is a company that is owned by another company or a trust, a subsidiary of some kind. A tiered entity chart itself is not required for all applicants. So only if you're owned by another company or trust, you would need to create a tiered entity chart and submit it with your application. A tiered entity chart shows the flow of ownership, so where the ownership lies and who the responsible party is for the applicant. On your tiered entity chart, any person or entity owning 25% or more would need to be listed on the chart. If a person, they would provide their full name, contact information on the application, a copy of their ID, and completed background check. All charts should end in a person. If a situation comes where it's employee owned, stock owned, shareholder owned company, we would need a statement regarding that situation, stating where the ownership lies and being specific that there isn't anybody in that shareholder stock owned employee situation that owns 25% or more. There is an attestation and signature required by the authorized signer. So this would be any authorized person that's named in the license application. We don't require or don't have a specific template to follow on how your chart should be created, but we do recommend using the chart shown here and on our website as a guide to create yours to make sure that you're including all the information that's needed. Okay, bonds. So the bonds are a really common error, so really keep an eye on this. There are three different types of bonds that you can have. There are surety bonds. These are the most common. There are cash bonds and then certificates of deposits. A surety bond is done through a bonding company or insurance company. They'll write the bond for the required amount and then you pay a premium rate to them. So it's similar to like your car insurance. They'll cover a certain amount and then you're paying them for that coverage. A cash bond, you would pay the minimum coverage amounts in full. And then a certificate of deposit is something you would obtain through your bank and then submit with your application. There are minimum coverages based on your estimated volume of work and the license classification you apply for. So going back to knowing your license classification, it's really going to help you throughout this process, making sure you're checking all those items. If you go through a bond company that is listed on the bond portal, they have the opportunity to input your bond through our bond portal online. They would add the bond for you. So it is one less item that you would need to submit or upload, and it helps. Okay. So let's see what's next. Okay, so bonds, what your bond should look like. We have sample bonds on our website, depending on your type of company, LLC, corporation, sole prop, if you're using a DBA. So I highly recommend taking a look at those. This is an example of what it look like. This is the best tool to show your bond company what your bond should look like. We do have the examples in our website to send to them as well. You should have your entity name matching your application and including any DBA listed. If you're applying as a sole proprietorship, your full government name needs to be listed on your ID. It should be listed on your bond as well. If you're applying and you're wanting a DBA, you should include the DBA on there after the name. The classification should be listed to match what is on your application. For dual classifications, the sums must be listed out separately. So if it has the commercial amount and the residential amount broken up so we can see where the coverage is at. The effective date must be within the last 6 months and it can't be a future effective date. It does require a notary and the official seal of the surety company. So again, this is the best tool to provide to your bonding company to ensure that your bond is completed accurately. It is one of the most common errors in license applications. Okay, disclosures. So these are possible additional documents that may need to be completed with your application. So first is a prior license disclosure. If you've ever been on a revoked or suspended license, it is something that statutorily needs to be disclosed in the application. So you would complete the form. If you're doing it through the portal, again, it'll give you the option to enter those licenses you've been associated with. If you've ever been cited or convicted of unlicensed contracting, you would need to complete the unlicensed activity disclosure form. And then felony charges. So we do review felonies. We don't look at misdemeanors. You would need to submit the felony disclosure form and required documents for our legal department to review. There are some additional documents that may need to be submitted as well. A solar warranty, if you're applying for a license that includes any solar work. If you want to cancel a license that you were previously on here in Arizona, you can submit a license cancellation form to be approved upon approval of your new license application. Just keep in mind that when you do cancel a license, it's canceled permanently and we can't bring that back. We all license inactivation. So it does have a $50 fee and it allows you to place the license in a hold status for 5 years. So it's another option if you're not wanting to just cancel the license. Also, there's a notice of disassociation. This is when the qualifying party is being removed from one license to be added to this application. You'll want to submit that with your application and it'll all be processed together. Okay, fees. So every classification has a separate set of fees. Any license that includes residential work includes the recovery fund fee. If the license is only commercial, you do not pay into the recovery fund. The application fee is listed as a one-time fee that you pay with your application. So every 2 years when you renew, you're not paying another application fee. The fees are very specific to your license classification. So again, knowing what you're going to be applying for is going to help you prepare all of these items down the road. So we have the fees available on our website. If you file through the portal, it'll automatically calculate your fees at the end. So just an added bonus on that one. Okay, following the checklist. This is going to be the best tool. We can't encourage this enough because it is really designed to help you get those items that are common mistakes completed and helping your application move fastly and smoothly throughout the process. If you're applying as an LLC or corporation, make sure you register that company with the Arizona Corporation Commission. Make sure you choose your classification so that you can get those required exams passed and get your fees calculated, the correct bonding, making sure that you submit background checks and they are within the last 90 days, making sure that you have everybody's ID. So at the bottom of the checklist, it'll also include those additional documents that we talked about. And they're also available on our website. Again, if submitting through the portal, it'll give you the option to fill in that information so you don't have to do an extra paper form. So definitely follow this checklist, use those links, and use the portal to help you get your application submitted. Okay, submitting your application. So how do we submit that? We have a few different ways you can submit your application. We recommend submitting through the portal. The portal's fast, it's convenient, it's easy. As soon as your license is issued, you can file any kind of maintenance items such as address changes, renewals, name changes. It has a lot of cool options to do through the portal. It also gives you the opportunity that if there is something deficient in your application to be able to upload those items through the online portal. So say you missed an ID or an exam score, you can upload that back through the portal. You also have the option to apply in person at our Phoenix office, or you can mail in the application. Just keep in mind when doing it by mail, you will need to mail in a check or a cashier's check for the payment. Okay, so submitting through the portal, you're going to need to create a portal account login. When you go to our website, we have the My Account/login up at the top of the page. It'll give you the option to register a new account. We do have a video on how to create your account that we highly recommend watching. It'll guide you through the information necessary to create the account and the next steps once you've logged into your account. So definitely visit our website, watch that video. It's very helpful in creating the account. Okay, so you've created your account and you're in your dashboard. So once you're logged in, your dashboard will look like this. It'll say the ROC online customer portal, and then that first option is going to be to add a business entity to your account. This is going to allow you to link your LLC, corporation, sole proprietorship to your portal account. Once it's linked, then you'll be able to start your application. When linking an LLC or corporation, you'll need your Arizona Corporation Commission file number to verify that your company is active and in good standing. If you don't know where that number is, you can contact the Arizona Corporation Commission. You can also find it on their website by searching your name as well. In your portal account, you are able to connect multiple companies to one login. So if you are applying under multiple different companies, or you already have several companies that you manage renewals for, you can link them to your same portal login. You don't have to create a new one. Okay, starting your application. So you've got your company linked to your portal account. You'll see your company name, your entity type, and your corporation commission file number. You can use all of these items to ensure that your application is being submitted under the correct company. Once you've confirmed, you'll click the blue button that says start a new application. This will be where you get your official application started. So once you click on that, it's going to take you into the application to start filling in that information requested. Okay, so we don't want to forget these, the biggest items. So checking your Arizona Corporation Commission, make sure all personnel are listed on the application, make sure everyone on the application completed the background check in the last 90 days. Everyone on the application needs to submit a valid and legible government issued ID. The qualifying party completed the required exams, and you have a completed bond ready to submit with your application, or using a bond company that's connected through our portal to have them upload that information on your behalf.
All right. Thanks, Jade. I'll give you a break there before we open it up for some Q&A. I am just going to remind everyone, you've heard it a few times now, but just be on the lookout for that follow-up email. We will have a link to today's presentation, as well as links for those applying for a license checklists. Cannot emphasize using those enough. We also ask that you complete the survey that will be attached. We want to hear from you. We want to make sure we covered everything that you wanted to know. And if you have any comments for us, we'd love to see those. We also ask that as you submit and complete your application, that you mark that you attended today's forum. We do know we get some pretty good feedback that these forums are very helpful, especially that Q&A portion that we'll move into shortly. But we like to keep track of that as well. And then just a reminder, everybody that is named on the application will need to sign that application. And fortunately, we have DocuSign, which means you can route that to every individual electronically, get their electronic signature, and then it gets routed to us. All right, so I didn't see throughout today's presentation, it may be a first, I didn't see any questions in the chat. So this is the perfect opportunity for you to go ahead and take yourself off of mute if you'd like to ask a question of the team. So we'll open it up for some Q&A.
I have a question.
All right, go for it.
The scope determination request form.
Yes.
Is that something